Coming at you live from Studio K. You are now listening to Rambling with Ryan.
All right, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Today with me, I got Matt Parmenter.
How's it going?
Not too bad, man. So I got to jump into this right away. The problem with the podcast is like we always hang out, have a couple beers beforehand, and conversation gets started, and like multiple times it's like, oh, save that for the podcast. Save that for the podcast.
Yeah, you got to make your little notepad here.
So the first thing I got to, because you mentioned that you are not a fan of Ronda Rousey.
I dislike Ronda Rousey.
Okay.
I respect what she does and what she did starting out for UFC women's fighting, and you know the streak she went on, and so be it. That's fine. She went ahead and dismantled women, but like, A, what was the level of competition she was fighting? Mm-hmm. And B, why are they making this person out to be a god? Like,
yeah,
the whole would beat up Floyd, would beat up a guy, like that stuff blows my mind. That kind of propaganda towards it, like it really, I find it super frustrating, and I was pumped to see Holly dismantle her.
So even when like she was at her height,
right,
and everybody, no one even for a second, this is the part that bugged me, was that as soon as like you always had these people who were good, like kept trying to claim that there were all these women out there that could beat her on social media. I had multiple fights with people. Just like everybody else, ignorant. I watch the MMA, but I don't really like. I've never trained, so I really don't know that much. There's always fights and arguments about how she's not really the best, right? All these people saying there's all these girls out there that can beat her. There's 100, and in every one, someone would say, okay, well, who? Like who? Name a person that you believe can be, and no one could ever actually.
No one ever had a reason. Yeah,
and even with this fight. Any analyst, everybody picked Ronda winning in the first or second round.
Yeah, that was, we bet on it on Bodog.com there.
Yeah.
And made a nice little chunk of money.
How much did you bet?
Me and Jacob Mangoni, we spread over like a whole bunch of, between $160, I think. We made, a $10
Oh, you bet over
this.
A bunch of fights.
Yeah, but the ones that I won on were, I bet on Holly to win by knockout.
Wow.
And we ended up getting paid. Like, that was $30 bets, and we got $360 out of that.
That's it?
Yeah. But, like, that's, those are like 12 to 1 payouts. Yeah. But since we only had 10 or $20 on it, it wasn't a huge return.
Because I remember looking at the odds.
Yeah, it was plus 1,200 for Holly to win.
Doesn't that mean you, like, so
$10 you get 120.
I thought if you bet 100, you win 1,200.
Yes.
Okay, so that makes sense. You bet 30, you win. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So, I mean, we've got a little bit of a profit there on top of money back, but it was like, for me, it was super exciting.
The thing that bugged me the most about it was that all of these people were claiming that they, like, knew. Fuck you. Nobody knew.
Nobody knew.
Even the tops of the top of
nobody knew.
MMA did not believe that was going to happen.
No, and that's even something Dana White said the other day. Like, everybody's saying Ronda's game plan was stupid. Mm-hmm. Well, if Ronda would have won again, like Dana said, she'd be the greatest athlete in the world. Yeah, she'd be, she could beat up Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah,
and now it's back to holy shit, somebody punched Ronda Rousey the fuck out.
Yeah.
So, what do you do? Like, I feel like we kind of touched base on it last time I was here. I mean, like, any little kid could come up to me on the street and catch you one in the chin and knock you out.
Yeah.
And like now people are going to make that case for Holly with Ronda, but it's fighting. Anything can happen. I've seen little guys beat up huge people. Mm-hmm. It happens in a fight, right? But I just didn't like the way everything went with Ronda over like making her such a god to the sport. Yeah. Like nobody should be made a god in the sport like that until they've been in it for 10 years and have really made a statement. And she's really only been fighting in UFC for not even 2.
Here's the thing is, and in my mind, they didn't make her out to be this god. We made her out to be this god.
I disagree.
You really?
Yeah, I think the UFC went like above and beyond to make her out to be a complete god.
How do they do that though? What did they do
on her websites? Like her trainers would publicize her saying she'd beat up any guy. There was even a video right before the last fight of her sparring with a guy, and like the guy wasn't even throwing hard punches.
Oh no,
like
I
he was throwing like it was all bullshit. The guy was throwing muffins and stunning her.
Yeah,
and like that's where it just comes down to where you say like, you know, the argument we had with guys at work was, well, yeah, she could beat up a guy. Well, no, she couldn't. What's your argument? And they'd say, well, she's trained her whole life for this. And I'd be like, whoa. Like, women train their whole lives. Do they play a regular shift in the NHL?
Yeah.
Do women train their whole life in baseball? Do they play a regular shift in the MLB?
Yeah, but I think this is different. When you're a high-level jiu-jitsu or even wrestling, you know how there's a difference between being skillful enough and fast enough and strong enough on the ice to be able to contend with all of those big bodies coming at you.
But what makes the difference, though?
Like the difference is leverage. And in wrestling and jiu-jitsu, leverage is everything.
So you have leverage on like a woman's muscle definition and ability to have strength. So what makes you compare that in UFC for a man versus a woman?
Okay, 100%. Ronda would kick the shit out of me.
I disagree.
See, but I no
disagree
way.
With that. Yeah, man. I don't know. Like,
there's no chance.
You've never really been a fighter, but like somebody, who do we know? Like when we were younger, that was kind of your size. A guy like Luke Davies, would kill her. You know, that was a scrappy guy. That's, you know, pretty small.
No. I can't even come close to agreeing with that. The level of which she's trained her whole life. Like Luke Davies he actually was in like boxing.
Yeah, he's
right?
Tough kid.
Yeah, I guarantee you, if she got her hands on him, he'd be done. He'd have no chance.
I just disagree, man. And especially from that last fight, watching her, the way she throws punches compared to a girl like Holly, who is a boxer.
Yeah,
you know,
but that's the thing is Holly Holm's like won national championships.
But there you go. She is a kickboxer.
Yeah,
but anytime Ronda came at her, she had the strength to fend her off.
Well,
and the other girls that Ronda's fought,
that wasn't really the thing
necessarily to take her down, and she'd get them in their arm bars, and you know, it'd be over so fast.
But she almost had her in an arm bar, and she got out. She squeezed out.
Yeah.
Maybe it was luck. Maybe she was just strong enough that she's able to withstand that.
Yeah.
But it was also from when I watched it, I think Ronda just didn't quite have the right position. But
she's pushing, she's pressing for it too much.
Yeah, but I watched a breakdown on it, and I think from what this guy said, and when you rewatch it, she did a very good job of staying out of Ronda's line, because Ronda was basically like a bull, right? Going just straight ahead, and that's how she is in every fight.
Yeah.
She's just been that much better than everybody else that it didn't matter.
No one's really had the power to stand back and keep
But it wasn't power. That's the thing, is that she was smart in that how she just slowly stepped to the side. Slowly stepped to the side. And instead of Ronda angling and keeping her in the least amount of motion, I mean, this is how this guy breaks it down. And instead of angling her, she's going right at, which uses up more energy. You get tired quicker.
Yeah.
And the person has a much easier time sidestepping out of the way, which is all she did. And then as she'd step away, she'd throw that jab.
Yeah, and she'd get her.
And she just picked her apart.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't think Ronda's done. I think there's a very good chance she gets that title back.
I agree with that completely. And I think in a rematch, you could see Ronda absolutely dismantle Holly. But, like, to put Ronda on the cloud of the gods. I'm just happy. I'm just happy it brought that whole back down to a level earth.
I think Ronda did a great job marketing herself, and I like, as far as her Instagrams and all of her social media, I don't think the UFC really had to do that much. I feel they matched her up well. Would they match up everybody? They match up people for exciting fights.
She was their like number one selling point for pay-per-view in the last.
This was their biggest pay-per-view ever.
That's what I mean, right? So obviously the UFC has some part in that, trying to broadcast her out to be a goddess.
Rogan and White did a podcast on the plane ride home I listened to. And White said, everybody was telling him how stupid this matchup was. Why are you, like, she should be fighting this person or that person. And the whole time he said, look, Ronda's never faced anybody like this. Like, it's not like he was putting her up against someone that he thought she was going to beat.
Right.
He was putting her up against someone who he thought was the best matchup for her next fight.
But that's Dana White. That's Dana White, though, right? Like, he's not going to go ahead and throw you a fight just to give someone a belt.
No, but that's what I'm saying, is that I don't think the UFC built her up. Like, I think she built herself up by winning fights in exciting fashion, and we, loving what was going on, just jumped right on the bandwagon. I didn't care that her fights were 13 seconds. There was, like, what you watch them for is that, moment. Yeah. Like, that's what you love about the UFC, whether it's an armbar, a knockout, or Holly Holm kicking her in the face and dropping her to the mat, man. I didn't even get to watch it live. I was choked when I found out.
It was awesome.
But to just tear her down and say, like, she was this and that. When you think about any of the big name fighters or any big stars, what do they all have in common? Controversy.
Yeah.
They're not that person. Holly Holm, as great as she is not going to be as big of a draw.
No, she never will.
Because she's too classy.
She's classy, and
I don't think it's that Ronda's not classy. I think she maybe was raised a bit differently. Yeah. She's got a bit of a chip on her shoulder, but I think she's a lot of it was just to sell. Yeah. Right? I don't know. I'm interested though. Like it's going
to be pretty crazy.
It definitely wasn't something that.
Have they announced a rematch or anything yet?
No, but Dana did say that the rematch will happen.
Yeah,
that is going to be Ronda's next fight. Is going to be a rematch, which is odd because when you look at like say not necessarily GSP. I'm trying to think of who the last one was.
Look at when even before Bones Jones got arrested.
Yeah,
he fought that one
Cormier.
No, it was another. Tall, skinny, I want to say German guy with the beard.
Gustafsson.
And
Sweden.
They went
Swedish. 5
rounds, I think, and like it almost seemed like Gustafsson won that, and he never got a rematch, which I found pretty weird.
Well, the rematch isn't going to come for the challenger.
Yeah.
The rematch is going to come for the challenger. Like if John had lost that fight, he would have got a rematch. Right away, just like Junior Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez had those like 2 or 3 wars in a row.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing about Gustafsson and Jones in that fight, or the thing about Jones, is that anybody close to Jones, like I listen to like a couple fight podcasts and Joe Rogan podcasts, right? Anybody close to him said he didn't even train for that fight. Like he literally, he did like a 2-week camp, got his conditioning up. That was pretty much it.
That was it.
And like,
that's what happens though when you got a guy coming in that like wants blood though, right?
Yeah.
You take a guy overrated and.
But apparently he's just that talented, John Jones. He's just like he is just now.
He's ever going to come? Is he in jail right now?
Look at his brother for the New England Patriots, Chandler Jones. Right, comes into the league. He was good last year. This year. He's leading the league in sacks.
That's pretty crazy. Is Jones in jail right now? Do you
know? No. He got everything. He got acquitted of everything.
So he's just banned.
He must have paid. No. They're just waiting to schedule him a fight.
Oh wow.
He's already back. He's already able to fight.
So does he have the belt then, or
no? No. It wasn't like the McGregor where he's got an interim belt. Because of what happened, they stripped him of the belt.
Okay.
So Cormier is the champ right now, and
I wonder how long before Jones.
I don't know. I can't see them giving him anything but a title shot. I mean, he was so dominant.
Next card, Jones and Ronda, Holly rematch.
Well, Ronda probably won't fight for like 6 months, I bet. So I don't know if Holly gets another fight in between or not.
You can't. That's the thing. I don't think you can give anyone else a fight in between. Except
you have to
Holly.
Otherwise, what if Holly loses, right? Because, well, she's undefeated. So I mean, who knows? She might be able to dismantle anyone. I don't watch it. I don't follow it enough. I mean, you really got to be...
You got to be into it, and it's hard. It's one of those things that's kind of hard to follow. Like, I'm not going to sit down and watch The Ultimate Fighter and your daily UFC news.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the pay-per-view and stuff once in a while, but as far as...
I don't know. I think the main point with her, too, is that, like, people need to remember, if it wasn't for Ronda Rousey, there would be no women's MMA. There would not be... It wouldn't even be on main card.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Now people know all these Paige Van Zandt and Misha Tate and all of these other names that are coming up.
Yeah.
So, she did
develop
with whatever her antics were. She did good for the UFC.
For UFC and gave them a whole extra card.
They're going to give her every chance they can to get her belt back.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. But
watch her just dismantle Holly right away.
See, I don't think that's going to happen. At all. I mean, if she wins it, it's going to be a 3-round war. Yeah. I do not see her doing the same thing to her she's done to anybody else.
Yeah.
But this, to me, like, if she had just continued on the way she had and just kind of, kept beating people. After a while, it would have got old. A while, people would have been like, well, fuck, she's got to have someone.
I was just kind of hoping to see anybody, like, give her a fight.
Yeah.
And that's, I was talking to Jimmy Grange about that, like, the level of competition. And as you were saying, everyone's saying there's these other women, like, they're saying this Cyborg.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't she fighting?
Because she won't drop the weight. Dana White in that same podcast was like, look, we've given her every opportunity to fight her in the UFC. She won't drop the weight.
She wants Ronda to go up.
Yeah, and why would Ronda do that? She's the champ. Well, she was the champ at that weight.
Yeah, that's the thing.
She's not going to move up.
It's not your weight division. Why are you going to do that?
Exactly. I would love to see that fight. And now everyone's like, oh, and you thought Cyborg was going to lose to Ronda, and look what... Like, I mean... That's the thing that people like. Matchups are everything. Yeah. Holly's a big girl, so you never know. She's tall and long.
Yeah, and she could put on that weight for a fight. But as a kickboxer, conditioning is such a big thing too, right? So
yeah,
maybe trying to go up would be a little too difficult still.
Did you watch?
What are the classes like? Another 10 pounds?
20. It's for women. It's either for like in the UFC, there's only 115 and 135.
Right.
And then Bellator, I think, like what Cyborg fought at was like 145, I believe. So
Ronda would have to go to 145.
Well, then they talked about doing a catch weight at 140, which I'm sure Ronda could do. Who knows, man?
Yeah, well, Ronda carries herself around at like 165, 170.
And that we talked about it last week. She did not look in shape in that fight.
No, she
compared to her other fights either. She looked out of it.
Yeah, but that's the thing too, right? How long has she had to go that far? Plus, if Holly stuns her once, like I don't know if you've ever been punched in the face, but when we used to play hockey, or you get hit in the face once, and your next minute you're still trying to catch up.
You're still trying,
your adrenaline's running, you're dizzy.
That's why I hate anybody ragging on her and these fighters. Like, man, have you been in a ring fighting a war? Like, putting everything on the line?
Hey, don't get me wrong. No. I'm not trying to rag on her.
No, I know. I'm not trying
to rag on her. I just, like...
There are a lot of
things that get over-publicized drive me batshit crazy. And I just felt like it was time for somebody to come in and level her back to a reality state.
I watched the weigh-in of those two. Yeah. Did you see that?
I didn't, but I heard Ronda got right in her face.
Yeah, they both kind of did. Holly pushed back, whatever. Yeah. And then Ronda had an interview with Rogan, and like right then I was like, something's off. Like when I seen that, I was like, something off with Ronda. She's not talking. Like she seems way too wound up, way too emotional, or like she wasn't even putting sentences together properly. And right there, I was kind of, and then when I listened to that podcast, Dana said after that weigh-in, all of a sudden there was buttloads of action on Holly Holm.
Yeah.
And he said, like
the odds changed like in a couple hours before when we were.
And I guess in a lot of fights it's like that. He said with weigh-ins,
they want to see how people react.
He said weigh-ins show everything.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I guess I'm not adapted to it enough, but I've never really thought anything more of it.
Wonder what the Vegas odds will be now on that fight, right?
Oh, I'm sure Holly Holm would be favored.
You think so?
I don't think there's any chance Holly Holm's not favored. Yeah, she beat her, and that's why you could see them not if they wanted to, they could say you got to fight someone else first. Yeah. She got dismantled.
She did,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. We were sitting there watching it, and Holly won the first round, and then in the second it was just stunner kick.
Yeah,
done.
She was exhausted too.
Yeah, she was wiped.
And then you hear her. It's so crazy. You have these perceptions of people. So through social media, and they also did an interview on the Rogan podcast. Edmund, who's her all he is a boxing coach, which I also didn't know, but he's her main coach.
Yeah.
And you have this perception like this guy's a genius, right? They play it off like this guy's the reason she's doing what she's doing. Yeah. And then you hear him in the corner when she's finally losing and she's doing nothing right. And he's telling her, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing. You're right where we want to be. Just go out. Just keep going at her.
Yeah.
Like he's telling her nothing useful.
Yeah, but is that the power of positivity as a coach?
No, you don't ever hear that with anybody else. Yeah. You hear constructive criticism. Like, look, you're on him. You got to do this though. Step to the side. Whatever the case may be. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but when the fighter's losing, they know they got to be honest. Otherwise, they're not going to win a fight. Yeah. You can tell the person that you're right there.
It was just the first round though, too, right?
Yeah, but she was doing nothing right.
Yeah.
In that first round, there was nothing she did
tried to
that
take her down
worked.
A couple times, and
And that's where this breakdown thing, I've never actually listened to it before. Apparently this guy does these breakdowns all the time. But, you know, that's where that like sidestepping thing, I guess, comes into play, is that instead of setting up that takedown by just kind of closing the distance slowly by angling off, she's going right at her. So it makes it easy for her to just step out of the way and throw that jab and keep her at bay.
Yeah.
So
Holly definitely kept her distance.
Yeah.
The whole time.
The whole time.
It just seemed like she wasn't close at all to taking her down.
It was like it. Regardless of what you thought before or how you feel about Ronda, it was a fucking shock to watch that fight from start to finish.
It was awesome.
It was not at all and I watched it the next morning just on YouTube or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, fuck, this is not at all what I was expecting. But that's where being an uneducated fan comes in, right? Yeah. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about at all.
We don't. That's the biggest problem, right?
But it's fun. I don't know. Weren't you just in Vegas?
I was in Vegas, 3 weeks ago.
How was that?
It was all right.
Were there any fights or anything going on? Any shows
there wasn't much going on. We were going to go to, there was an Elton John show.
Oh, cool.
We were really trying to get to, but we went late to buy tickets, and they're like $210 US, and it was kind of like...
That's where they get you, eh? No wonder these stars do those Vegas shows. They just rake it in.
And they do it for months too, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, imagine instead of having a Canada, North America tour, you're just doing it in Vegas 4 nights a week, resting in a suite in some hotel that puts you up, like Caesar's Palace or the Mirage.
Yeah.
And you're just hanging out in Vegas, right? And that was the first time the girlfriend and I had gone down. Like, the first time I'd been there for more than a night. We went for a night once on our way to Arizona. So her and I just kind of looked around more so. But next time we go, it'd definitely be...
Where'd you stay?
Looking to see more shows. We stayed at the Stratosphere.
Oh, yeah.
So it was kind of halfway in between, which was a bit of a...
Did you go up and ride all the rides and everything?
We didn't go on any rides, no.
Is that everything?
Well, we were looking at like the jump. The first day we got and checked in the hotel and had some drinks, and we were looking around. We went up to the top, and it was $150 US to like jump off.
Oh, you can jump like a bungee jump on the Stratosphere?
Yeah, actually, it's a cable that you hook up.
Yeah.
And you just jump to the bottom, and then it like tightens as you get to the bottom, and you land on your feet. So it's like a free fall base jump.
All the way to the bottom?
All the way to the bottom, yeah.
And then you're on the ground?
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
I know.
That was not there when I was there.
So that's what we were looking at doing. And then when I saw it was $150 US, and like, I only took so much money down to kind of look around and do whatever. So,
other than like the view you get on some of those rides out and over, I found them extremely let down. I love fucking roller coasters
heights and stuff.
There.
I could see the elevator being kind of cool, just because you're at the highest point.
Yeah. And there was like a what are they called?
I know what you're
not a Ferris wheel. The one that spins.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they call it.
It just kind of hangs
you
off.
You sit
the
in
edge
it, you hang
spins.
or whatever, and then you look down, you see the whole.
It was just nice to hang out at the restaurant up there.
Yeah.
Just kind of overlook Vegas with all the lights at night there.
Yeah.
We went up there for dinner a couple nights.
I haven't been for quite a while. Last time I went to the fight, the GSP BJ Penn fight.
Oh, nice.
That was 2009 or something like that. Yeah, that was good.
That would have been a good time.
Yeah, I don't remember much of it, unfortunately.
I understood why it stays in Vegas.
So that was rough, man.
That was like the definition of this trip for us.
Did you? So Donaldson won the MVP, eh?
Yes, that was huge.
I was starting to doubt it after reading a few things about how Trout, these, what do they call them, advanced stats, and like, again, I've just kind of gotten into baseball the last few years, so
people just looking for a reason not to give a Canadian team like such a big award,
Yeah.
And I don't know. Mike Trout had a good year, but when the Jays make the playoffs for the first time in 22 years, and it's the biggest acquisition of the season was Donaldson. As big as getting Price and Tulo or Revere and all that at the deadline, Donaldson was the biggest thing that
he changed the outlook of that whole dugout, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely.
You had him and Russell Martin were the biggest changes that team made.
Yeah.
For a guy like Martin to come in and work with young pitchers and stuff, and like guys that when you're a stud pitcher and like you have a catcher like Martin, it just makes you so much better. And people who don't play baseball will never really understand that. It's just for you in hockey, like you can play with a guy who's an average center or a guy that's a great playmaker.
Yeah.
And even you, like if you're playing in men's league with that big of a difference, it's going to mean 30 points for you on the season.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And that's the same kind of thing it does for baseball. Having a guy that knows how to call a game and his ability to play defense and throw runners out, right?
Just having a guy, I mean, like you said, last year I changed up lines halfway through the season. I started playing with Vinny. And
must have downed your game
Matt
big time,
Vinette.
eh?
No, that was the thing, is that like it's not that he was like he's a good hockey player, but it was the fact that we had chemistry, and he seen the ice well. So when I would be flying up the wing, he would actually notice that all he had to do was give me a little chip off the boards or just chip it over his defender's stick, and I was gone.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those little things that some guys
if you play well with that
don't
guy,
really
right?
have, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the hardest part about the game too, is like that touch.
You gotta see those things.
Yeah, just reading the play. But I think that's awesome to see, because I really didn't think Price was going to win over Keuchel. So it's good to see Donaldson to pull that in, and hopefully next year they build off what they did. And
well, it's weird to see. Like, I was pretty surprised with like the management changes.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, like a lot of people think Anthopoulos is a god for what he did. So at the deadline they went and got 5-6 guys that made a huge difference. But like realistically, like he's made a lot of splash trades in the last couple of years that Donaldson's really the only one that's worked out.
Too low. Well, I mean, you got to wait till next year, because he's still signed.
Besides the deadline from this year.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
It's like previous, like when he went out and got Dickey and Josh Johnson and Jose Reyes and he got a whole bunch of players, and Reyes was Jose Reyes, and he did that, but he was hurt
a lot.
40%, if not more, of his time in Toronto.
That was kind of what I figured about.
And he just got arrested again. So like,
did he?
Yeah, in Hawaii for domestic violence.
Oh my, Reyes did?
Yeah.
He seems like such a happy dude.
He seems like a happy dude, but like you just never know what those guys are really like in the clubhouse. And that team was overwhelmed by Dominican players. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But like you could just tell that their swag attitude rubbed people the wrong way for a long time. And I think it was a huge difference getting rid of some of those guys this year that kind of seemed mopey and like moving Reyes was good, but like bringing in Donaldson and Martin and losing Colby and Adam Lind, it just changed.
Well, Colby though, I didn't have a problem with Colby, and look what he did with the Astros this year.
He didn't do much though all year, and then he came in the playoffs and hit 4 or 5 bombs.
Yeah.
So
he hit 28 home runs or 27 home runs.
Did he over the whole year?
Yeah.
So he had a decent year.
He had a pretty good year. I think he hit like 270 or something.
He just signed a $15.8 million contract.
For 1 year.
For 1 year.
Which, it's kind of smart on both sides,
That's
right?
more money than Jose.
Yeah.
That's more money than Edwin.
Yeah.
That's 4 times the money Donaldson's making right now.
Yeah. He's not making that next year, though. He's got to get re-signed.
He's on arbitration still.
Yeah.
So he's good to go to arbitration.
He'll make 15, 12, 15, something like that.
Not necessarily, because Jose went through that thing with arbitration where just because their arbitration's battle will be, this was only your second really good year.
Yeah.
So you're not worth $20 million. But like as a general manager, how do you even let it go to that point? Like, sit down with Donaldson as agent.
Yeah.
Say, how much money do you want for 7 years?
Yeah.
And fucking give it to him.
Yeah.
The
guy's got the work ethic.
That's what blew my mind last year. They sent him to arbitration over $1.25 million. He wanted 5 something and he only got 4 something.
Yeah.
Like, shut the fuck up and give Donaldson $5 million.
Yeah.
You've a 38-year-old in your bullpen.
Right? They're like the penny pincher of the league, right? Like you can't which also I don't understand with how often they make the playoffs, right?
No, that was the Jays when they traded for him. His contract had to get re-signed. The Jays did that to him.
Oh, I thought that he had already signed before he came.
He went to arbitration with the Jays.
Well, yeah, and that makes zero sense.
Yeah, give the guy what he wants.
Yeah.
Because, you know what, in the long run...
then you create bad blood, and now the guy this year is going to be like, give me what the fuck I want.
That's what I always wanted happened,
Right? Yeah.
You got guys that opt out of contracts, or they have mutual club options, and... one day, if you want a favor from Donaldson, and he has that one part in his back of his mind saying, that one time they fucking sent me to arbitration, I'm out.
Yeah.
So, but, he said he just had his interview there in MVP, and he said, I'd like to retire in Toronto. I'd love to play my whole career here. And then he said, but it's kind of a business, and you see what happens.
Well, he's being honest at least, right? And maybe he does actually want to, that just be something everyone says.
I'd love to see them put him on a serious contract. Though.
Yeah.
At least
lock him down.
At least a 4 or 5 year deal where you still have Tulo and Martin.
Yeah.
Just sign him to that now and give him,
and then add a couple more pieces in there.
$80 million on a front or backload contract or whatever. And
why wreck what we have, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Price is gone, I'm sure. I don't think they're going to re-sign him.
I just can't see them re-signing him.
No,
especially after giving Estrada money and exercising Dickey's option.
They already exercised Dickey's option?
For $12 million.
Why?
I don't know. We were talking about that today, my buddy.
I like him.
I love the guy, but I mean,
you know what?
If Dickey wants to stay in Toronto that bad, and it's a club option, for $12 million, say okay, we'll deny this. Sign for 5.
Yeah, 8, whatever.
Yeah,
like
under 10.
He's not worth 12. He's not worth 12 at all.
You know what? That's what I loved last year when they claimed Justin Smoke off waivers. His contract was only $3 million, and then they said nope. They didn't protect him on the 40-man there, and they had to they re-signed him for $1 million.
Yeah,
come out and prove it.
Yeah,
and he came out and
didn't really prove much.
You know what? He hit a couple clutch hits, and he played stellar defensively.
He is good defensively. I definitely give him that. But I mean, when he's at the plate, like there's just something about it that he does. I don't believe in him. Like when you see him up there and you like see his eyes and him watching, it just doesn't look like he's confident in his ability.
Yeah.
Although I think he has those abilities.
I think he has the talent.
I just don't think
it's almost like Chris Davis before he started taking Adderall.
Yeah.
Same kind of guy, hitting low 200s, has power.
Yeah.
You never know when you're going to see it.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're just waiting for one thing to come out in him.
He's allowed to take Adderall?
Yeah, he finally got approved for it. So again, he had another 45 home run year.
Yeah.
So.
Did he not perform last year?
Well, he got that. He had the 1 year where he was like MVP numbers. And then they suspended him right before playoffs. Mm-hmm. And then he finally got approved from a doctor for it, so he got back on it and had another huge year.
I don't like that they were like, I don't know how serious it was, but they were saying the Blue Jays were interested in Chris Davis. I'm like, dude, you got 3
I just don't understand where you'd put him.
Big home run hitters already. You need guys that just put the ball in play now.
Yeah.
That's what you need to fill in around them,
mm-hmm.
which is exactly what Kansas City does.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, fuck, they just went on a run, man.
They're just
I can't believe what they
solid.
did against that Mets pitching.
I couldn't believe honestly, they came back in 3 of the games, man. In like the 8th or 9th inning, they were down 3 or 4, 2, and they just don't quit.
They just keep chipping
tied
away.
It up, and that's what it takes to win, though, right?
And they got young guys. They're gonna be good next year. The Mets are gonna be good next year too, man. All those pitchers with another year under their belt of experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the majors are going to be they're going to be interesting for the next couple years. It's going to be fun to see.
I'm excited to see. There's so many good free agents this year too. It could shape a whole bunch of things for a lot of teams next year, especially if the Cubs, the Cubs are making a huge push for Samardzija or Greinke or Price or
I would love to sign one of those guys.
If they add any more power. So I don't understand with the Jays, fuck, they could have signed some of those guys. And there's a lot of 3-4 starters in that free agent list too that I don't really personally buy into the whole Marco Estrada thing as much as some other people do. He's solid when he was pitching to Navarro. He had a great year pitching to Navarro, only pitching to Navarro. Navarro only played when Estrada was pitching.
Yeah.
So now that Navarro's gone, is that going to be in Estrada's head? That's a huge thing for pitchers, the thing that make your confidence.
I didn't even think about that.
So
I think in the training and everything, Martin, he'll get on board with them.
Yeah, but if they weren't on board earlier in the season and had a difference, are they going to start agreeing on something automatically, or is it just going to click?
Yeah, it could just be personalities, right? That's the interesting thing about that is that some people just clash. Mm-hmm. They just cannot get past their differences.
Yeah. And it affects when you're pitching in a game. I mean, we were talking about that with Jake. It's all mental. Mm-hmm. It's so mental. If you're up there and you're just,
you're not liking any of the signals he's putting down.
Yeah, and all of a sudden that guy starts getting in your head. You get a little tense, throws off your mechanics, throws off your game. Instead of hitting a corner, you're throwing down the zone. Guys are hitting you. You know.
Well, if him and Martin or whoever is going to be their second catcher can figure it out, man, I thought he was like the opposite of what I seen in Smoke is what I seen with Estrada. When he was on the mound, he looked calm, cool, collected. He was in the zone. There was nothing that was going to get to him. And just when you that's what I like about his delivery too. Is it's just so fluid, and that's probably part of it is he just kind of effortlessly to the plate. Like I don't know. I really enjoyed watching it. And when you knew he was coming up, I was like, yeah, okay, that's the win. It was like more so than Price in the playoffs.
You thought so, yeah?
In the playoffs, I was more excited.
I was terrified every time Estrada was pitched all year.
Because Price, that's why after the playoffs, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Don't re-sign the guy. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad pitcher, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's worth what he's going to command when it comes to...
I think he's worth a little more than he's going to command versus guys like John Lester, or Scherzer that got huge contracts last year.
Yeah, but I would never put him in the category of a Greinke or a Kershaw or Arrieta, the way he performed at least last year. I don't know. Who knows what he does next year?
Yeah.
Guys like that. I don't know.
It's hard finding a playoff performer, man. Like even Kershaw hasn't had. Kershaw's kind of done the same thing as Price. Those guys will dominate all year, and then, it's not even Price. He didn't even pitch. One of the playoff games wasn't great, but the other one was pretty good. Kept the team in, and it's just unfortunate that they lost. But it was Game 6 that we were watching here. Actually,
yeah.
What did he give up? He only gave up 2 runs, and then Sanchez came in and gave up a home run. It was 3-1. Then Jose tied it up at 3s, and then it was a rain delay.
Yeah.
So, it's not like he had a bad game. And if they would have won that and gone to 7, everyone, who knows,
fuck, right? That game was so frustrating, man.
It could have been a hero.
After you left and then we went... Yeah, he pitched well that game. Don't get me wrong. He pitched well in his last couple outings, other than that 7th inning in the one game. But, when they... again, I'm not a Major League Baseball coach. I have no idea how I could do it. But how do you not get that guy on third home? I don't understand it. Yeah. You had a guy on third with 0 out. Like, that game should have been tied.
Yeah. It was wild.
I don't know.
So
I cannot see a situation like you have 3 guys coming up. And I understand you're kind of thinking, well, you get a home run, the game's over.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you can't really think like that. Or no, sorry, that was in Kansas City. So it wouldn't have been over. They would have been coming up to bat afterwards.
It was... Yeah, they would have gone ahead. They were tied at 3.
Yes.
And they would have put it up. Came in and had a rough go.
Did he?
Yeah, Ozuna took the loss there.
Because didn't it go to 14 innings or something?
Who came in? I can't remember who came in after the rain delay. I was zoning out. I was too frustrated watching.
After the rain delay. Oh, yeah, that's right. After the rain delay, what's his name came in?
Maybe Mark Lowe.
I think it was. I can't remember.
I feel like it was Mark Lowe because I was shaking my head because he was the one years ago for Texas that blew. Remember years ago there was that super exciting St. Louis Texas series.
Oh right, yeah.
And Mark Lowe was the pitcher in that game who blew it.
Yeah.
And in Mark Lowe's first game as a J, he gave up 3, and I was like, oh, this guy just never performs when it matters.
When it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the shitty. But. Anyway, you had 3 outs. I don't care who's coming up to bat. Fucking bunt.
You got to manufacture a run.
Fucking
There's
bunt.
No reason there.
Yeah.
You got none out, man. You got to put in a run in that situation. Even if it's Donaldson, Jose, and Edwin coming up.
I understand you've got Navarro. It was Navarro. I remember it was Navarro was up. You had who got on base? Martin got a hit. That's what it was. Martin got a hit. He got on first. They brought out Pompey. He stole all the way to third on whoever was up next, which was, I think, Navarro who was up next. So there might have been 1 out.
Navarro would have switched with Martin.
And then, they pinch. No, that's right. They pinch hit. That's what it was. Okay, hold on. I got
pinch hit Navarro for someone.
They pinch hit Navarro for whoever Goins.
Oh, okay.
So you had Pilar hit. He ended up getting out. Or no, he got on base too. That's right.
They had 2 on.
They had 2 on. That's what it was. Pompey stole third, and then Pilar got a hit, got to first, and he was on third. So they had 2 on with no outs. So you get Navarro up. I don't care if the guy's more of a power hitter. Bunt that much. Like, I know you're trying for a pop fly.
Yeah.
Get it in play.
Yeah. Oh, especially with a guy like Wade Davis pitching, who's just...
Yeah.
You know, you don't get pop-ups on a guy like Wade Davis.
No.
He hits your knees and he throws stuff that moves. Like,
lay it out. Lay it down.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It was a tough one.
To next year, man. We'll see.
Something to learn for next year.
I just really... I don't think, like, with especially like we were talking about with Martin and Donaldson, they're going to stay right where... They're going to be right up at the top again.
I think the Jays will be the top. They still need to do something in free agency here because they don't have the whole farm to sell at the deadline next year, which is a huge thing. So if they're going to go for it...
They need to make some signings.
They need to sign a couple guys now and have a solid year.
I don't think this new GM, though, and I think that's why Anthopoulos ended up leaving, was because Anthopoulos was thought he was the king after what he did, right? Yeah. In his mind, he's on fucking top of Everest.
Yeah.
And
Shapiro comes in
and shits on him for what he did, getting rid of the farm, which, depending how you look at it, it could suck coming up in the future, but he went for it. Yep. They had a chance. Mm-hmm. They had the pieces in play. They just needed to add a few things. So he went for it, which you kind of have to do sometimes. Mm-hmm. But unless
I don't think he was wrong to do it. I would have I'd back that any time,
and I think he was expecting more praise and more of a contract, like a few year thing. Yeah. And he ended up getting like a 1 or 2 year deal.
Yeah, they didn't offer him much. Plus Shapiro told him, he was gonna be the overseer of all the decisions.
Yeah.
And when you're taking the reins out of a GM's hand, nobody really wants to be a puppet of a team.
And I respect his decision to not stick around, right? I mean, if you're coming up and you need an opportunity, then maybe that's more of the kind of person you need in that position under Shapiro if he's going to oversee everything. But someone like him who, in his mind, he's already proven that he can run the team and get them to the playoffs.
Yeah, but who knows, right? After all those years where they only made the playoffs once, a guy like Shapiro coming in could look at it and say, you could have done a lot more.
Yeah.
So there's always two sides to that argument too, right?
Yeah, if you would have just waited another year, let these guys develop, not sell the farm, let these guys, because they already had sold the farm for Dickey with their pitchers. You got rid of fucking
Syndergaard.
Yeah.
That was just hard to watch. But every time he watches, I just shake my head.
You never know what he could maybe not have developed. That's the thing, right?
Yeah,
a lot of that just has to do with, you see it all the time in the NHL. A guy switches teams, and all of a sudden he's in the top 30 in scoring the next year, right? So you never know. Well, I wanted to get into, because we were also talking about kind of getting into this whole refugee debate, which just keeps adding layer upon layer upon layer every day. And the latest thing that I seen, or that I think you
bring up here,
was, what was it, 70%, 60-something% apparently in Alberta are against this.
It's 70% in Alberta. They're against it, which doesn't surprise you at all because how heavily was that voted conservative?
Yeah,
100% conservative ridings.
Yeah,
but 60% of Canadians disagree with Liberal plan. This is from Global News.
Huh. I'm kind of surprised because almost everything I see on social media is people just ripping apart anybody who thinks they shouldn't come.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And you were saying before, the common theme in these people who don't want them coming over. And to be honest, even when we were talking about it last week, I was on the fence, but I was more leaning towards, we got to be careful. Is the fact that, and they've even. ISIS has even claimed that they have put their soldiers in disguise or incognito into these refugees.
How do you know? What's the screen?
But you don't know if they're lying, if they're just trying to get in your head.
Well, that's it.
But apparently, and then I read an article today about it, and apparently the screening process is quite extensive. And most of these refugees that are coming here are... I can't remember what the name they used for them was, but they're basically already vetted. Like, these people coming over are already they're sponsored. Sorry, that's the word. Mm-hmm. They're already sponsored. So so everyone's worried about the ISIS issue, but they're also worried about, well, how are these guys going to contribute to our economy? How are these people,
in an economy that already doesn't have jobs?
Exactly.
That our new prime minister is making all these jobs.
For the first year, they have to, their sponsor has to cover their living expenses. So, I mean, in that sense, it kind of changes things.
What kind of government grant is there going to be for families that take in these people?
Yeah. I don't think it's a government grant, though.
They just want you to do it.
I believe they have sponsors, people who are, they didn't say anything about a grant in this article, at least, but these are sponsors who I would assume are like wealthier people who are kind of philanthropists, and they're trying to help, and they cover the expenses that these people need. But the problem comes in like 5 years when they still don't have jobs, or whatever the case may be, and now you just have,
or they're constantly in Canada battling with the 50% of people that don't want them here.
Yeah.
So how's that going to reflect their time spent and develop their thought on our society if half the time they're out in public and they're getting dirty looks, frowned upon, no one wants to hire them? How's that going to change their perspective on Canada? Are they still going to be grateful that they're a refugee, or are they going to, want to go back, turn their back?
I mean, I think if you talk to anybody who comes from a family that has immigrated here, right? I think that way more often than not, they're going to be grateful and they're going to work hard. And I mean, you see it all the time, right? Yeah. I mean, they take jobs that no one else would take, right? A lot of like the Mexicans that come up. They're some of the hardest workers up here.
Friendliest group of guys in Aldergrove.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But always see those guys cashing their checks on a Friday, playing soccer
and they're
at
the Alder. And
riding their bike down.
Riding their bikes. They got their groceries from the extra foods. Yeah. And it's funny because I bet you anything, they're happier than half of the people in this town who make $100,000 a year. Kids are... in all the sports they can play, they have everything that they need, and yet I bet
they're just here making the money they need to make, and they're sending to their family back home.
They are not entitled. That's the problem. And I mean, I do it. Everyone has those moments where they kind of have those. They feel entitled, like they are owed something. Yeah. When in reality, man, we have it better than almost anybody else in the world.
We do. Absolutely.
And that's the part that bugs me about this argument about not letting them in when you set aside the issues with ISIS and you set aside, the issues with how are we going to pay for them. If they have sponsors and all of that, I mean, there's really no reason, in my opinion, for them to come over. I mean, if they're being screened properly, the only problem is they're being screened by like our version of this CIA. No. Why can't I think? CIA, like basically the Canadian version of the CIA. I think it's CSIS or something like that. How are we paying for that? That's a lot of fucking money. 25,000 people that have to go through this.
They were saying that the refugees coming were going to get more money. It was going to cost more per refugee to come here than like...
I don't believe any of that shit, man. That's the other problem is you don't know what to fucking believe online, man. Yeah. It's so hard to know what to believe. Yeah. And that's the problem.
It's hard finding articles. Like you and me were just trying to look it up before.
Yeah.
Finding anything.
Something that's concrete.
Like a concrete, this is the plan, this is what's happening, this is the funding, this is where the funding's coming from. I spent a couple hours before I even came here trying to find something like that. Yeah. And I think it's pretty bad.
The government probably keeps that stuff close to the chest. But
they shouldn't.
Not have to share it legally. I wonder. Because it's taxpayer dollars, right?
Yeah.
That they would be using.
They're like Canadian citizens are welcome to audit.
Here's the thing, man. Those people are living. I understand the worry, and I believe there should be a conversation.
Here's how they're screened before they come.
I wish I could fucking save that one. You have it?
Yeah. Here's a look at the process. Okay. Oh, it doesn't look like it's loading. If you go to Global News...
Hey, I got it here.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I can read you the excerpt here from the article I was reading. So this is Headspace. I mean, I don't know the article. This is the problem. Again, it's just opinion.
Here's one. This is the refugee screening process. So refugees leaving his or her home country, the Syrian refugee currently looking to come to Canada, have typically made way to host countries, Lebanon, Turkey, or Jordan. They take up residence in the host country, not necessarily in a camp, Some have enough money to rent a home or stay with people who've opened their homes. Yeah, this still says nothing about screening. It just says they...
Trying to find here. I mean, they did a good job of kind of laying out. I mean, you think about 9/11, you think about it.
The UN Refugee Agency does the screening.
A lot of it is just
it considers gender, age, history, level of physical risk, and requirement for medical help not available in the home country. So those are the things they're considered on.
So here...
yeah.
This was one of the main questions. So that this person is noting. Refugees pose a threat to Canadian security. One of the things we're all worried about, right? Actually, it's way tougher for someone to enter Canada as a refugee than as a visitor. Stop reading silly articles and dubious links chock full of misinformation shared by your bigoted friend on Facebook, and take the time to read real facts about refugees and refugee claimants in Canada from the Canadian Council for Refugees. There's a link here for that. A national non-profit umbrella organization in Canada. According to their information, the refugee determination process involves security checks by CSIS and the RCMP, fingerprinting and interviews. It's not likely that a person intending to commit a violent act would expose themselves to such detailed examinations, which I can understand.
Yeah.
I still think people could slip through, but I mean, they do a good job in this article of kind of making you forget all of the scare tactics and hype that you see in the media and in all these, clickbait posts, and really just think like how much stuff has really happened as far as terrorist attacks by people not already from our own countries, right?
Yeah.
Boston bombing, they were people from here, right? So, I mean, they make a good point that it's not going to be any more dangerous than the people who are already living here that could be a threat.
Yeah, true.
So, the biggest issue that I've had with this whole debate over the last couple of weeks is that you can't even have a conversation about it. Both sides are just screaming, yelling like you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You can't even like hear the other side's point. And the side...
It's exactly that comes right back to the whole election shit that we talked about, man.
You can't even...
It's what you can shove in someone's face.
Yeah.
So all it really comes down to is personal opinion, whether, you want it here. And I just found another article.
We find what we do. We find the information we want to find.
Yeah, but how often do we look for it, right?
But there's so many sites, just want to finish. So there's so many sites that or posts of, it's the worst side of it is the side of people who are worried about them coming over. Like anybody mentions something about, what about a security threat, which it legitimately is.
Yeah.
So not even talking about it is retarded.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're making it worse.
It is a legitimate...
be able to actually talk about the issue. And then, like this article does, and obviously I'm going to have to fact check some of this stuff, but if this is true, then you know what? You're right. It's really not as much of a risk as we might think.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, what happens now if while these refugees are coming to Canada, something happens like in Paris?
Mm-hmm.
What's everyone going to say then?
Yeah.
Who's going to be to blame? Is it going to be the CSIS or Trudeau or Liberals or, everyone's just going to be looking for a finger to point. I found this part on this. This is straight off the Government of Canada website.
Oh, okay.
So this is good because, as you said about the money thing, which, was just something I had heard. So that was stupid of me to not research it. So the question on the Government of Canada website, do government-assisted refugees get more income support and benefits than Canadian pensioners do? There's a 3-paragraph answer here that I'll read. It says, no, refugees do not get more financial help from the federal government than Canadian pensioners do. A widely circulated email makes this false claim. This email mistakenly includes the one-time startup payment as part of the monthly payment. The amount of monthly financial support the government-assisted refugees get is based on provincial social assistance rates. It is the minimum amount needed to cover only the most basic food and shelter needs. Most refugees selected for resettlement to Canada have been forced to flee their country because of extreme hardship. Some may have been living in refugee camps for many years. When they arrive to Canada, they must start their lives again in a country very different from their own.
Yeah.
So there's your fact. So,
yeah.
This is straight off the government site, right?
Yep.
This isn't like a meme shared on Facebook
and
or whatever.
It doesn't mean we should just open the doors and let everyone in. But
again, like you're saying, so granted the government's saying that, but it doesn't mean, boom, should we all let them in?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it does snowball a ton of other issues, man. Like, what are they going to do for work?
Yeah.
And there's already people hurting in Canada for jobs. Mm-hmm. So if there's...
But here's my case. Sorry, I'll let you go ahead.
No, I agree. Like, I'm all for helping people that need help.
Yeah.
And if I was ever in a country, granted we're blessed that we're not, and if I needed to go somewhere and all of a sudden some other country like Russia was like, oh no, fuck that Parm guy, like,
yeah,
no, fuck you, like,
you're not coming in.
You're not coming in. I'd probably not like Russia much. So it's just one of those unfortunate situations that like this terrorism's happening. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
you need to be able to talk about every issue openly and honestly, and that's the biggest problem with
I have
almost
a hard time
everything
seeing
today
it being beneficial in the long term for Canada.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that, but at the same time, 25,000 in a country of 30 million, it's not. It's a fraction. It's a small fraction. Yeah. Plus, and that's a small fraction even of just the amount of people trying to leave the country. It's like millions.
Yeah.
Right. Already, I think 3 million have left.
Well, that's what another article I read. People were complaining about 25,000 coming here, and like 800,000 are going to Germany.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a massive amount.
That's a lot of people. It's a big city, right?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I don't envy the prime minister. That's for damn sure. I mean, this is something where you made a promise about what you were going to do. And I mean, I respect you if you hold up that promise, happy but doing it, though? You also really do need to think about the country, and they need to exhaust every option and look over every, go over everything with a fine-tooth comb, because you do not want something to happen.
He's got his 50-50 cabinet.
Yes,
to
exactly.
Do that, right?
Yeah. Oh, another thing, like all of these things that just, and you lucky fucker for getting rid of Facebook.
Yeah. But
I need it for my platform here. Fuck, man. Like, it's just like everybody needs to, these days, everyone needs to be on a cause. Everyone needs to be part of something that they're like shaking their finger and fighting for. Like, I'm better than you because I think this, but you think that.
Yeah, but how many of those things last more than a month?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's exactly it. Right. Then they're gone, and the next thing's up.
There's
Cecil who?
I used to keep a list of it. There's that one time where it was the Coney War that everybody was sharing, and literally a week later,
and then it turns out to be nothing.
Nobody gave a shit.
A bunch of bullshit.
And then there was I'm not saying this poorly, but there was a little girl in Coquitlam that had committed suicide.
Oh, right.
And everybody wanted to get on board with anti-bullying, and that's great, and there needs to be stuff like that. But the wave that these things go through of people's caring, how many people are sitting on Facebook now saying, "Oh, thanks, Trudeau. I'm so happy you're here." It's been a month later, and granted, he's only been in power for a month.
Yeah.
But how many people that were so passionate about that election
are still talking about it?
Yeah. Nobody.
That was the other thing. The Trudeau train, which, you know what, I voted for Trudeau. Yeah. I'm hoping he does as good as people believe he can do. Yeah. But I'm not fucking tickling the guy's balls yet.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do something first.
What's he done?
And it's only been a month, so I don't think he should have already. I'm just saying, wait till
I feel like he should have gone ahead and did something right away.
Like legalize marijuana, or
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm
all for that, personally.
Well, what he's doing is the Syrian refugees, right? Because that was part of his platform.
I guess that is
and
something.
And that's kind of been the number one thing on his plate right now.
Yeah, well, it's been getting forced on a timeline, right?
Yeah. But this, and then this whole 50-50 cabinet, give me a fucking break, man. Like, I'm so sick and tired of, I don't care who you are. I understand.
You said it best on your last podcast. The best person for the job is the best person for the job. Whether it's 10 guys, 10 women, 10 black people, 10 Asian people, 10 East Indian people.
Yeah.
Whatever
it is.
If somebody, I think, like, for the most part, our society has we've overcome racism pretty considerably as to where you're working with in a workplace with people of all different cultures.
Yep. And there's no
if
problems.
I'm going out and working with a guy who knows what he's doing, I don't fucking care what color he is.
No.
If he's keeping me safe and we're getting our job done,
yep,
and we're moving on, what difference does it make? It doesn't. It doesn't at all. And it's. Yeah. I like the part of the cabinet. I understand that there was so many different issues that they needed to have appointed people for. There's a list of topics they wanted to have a complete restructuring for. But I think just to go and say, hey, like this has to be 50-50.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of bullshit.
The thing about it is, like, you have all of these people screaming and yelling and hip hip hooray for 50-50, and this is kind of the message they're pushing after he selects his cabinet.
Yeah.
When in reality, if we're talking about equality and that's where we want to be and end up, which I pretty much think we're fucking there. Like, I know women who are top of their profession in all areas.
Yeah.
Dental, I've dentists, right? My physiotherapist is a girl. My dentist was a girl. My orthopedist was a girl.
It's because they're good at their job.
They're good at their jobs.
Yeah.
Stop fucking bitching and just do your job.
Yeah.
That's the part about it that bugs me, is that
no one's ever come down on somebody for being good at their job.
Exactly.
And granted, there are circumstances where people are qualified for their job and they're maybe not getting it.
Yeah.
It
happens though, man. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So just fucking persevere and move on and go apply to the next one. This whole when you don't feel like you got a fair shake and now you need to raise hell.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's about gender, a race, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Just fucking shut up and do your job and just be great. Like, that's all you have to do in today's world. Yeah. There is absolutely no reason. Yeah, okay, maybe if you live in, like, the deep south, there are still going to be pockets where racism is a real thing.
Yeah.
And yes, even here, people have their perceptions, but you can't...
You can't use that as your excuse.
Like, the way the culture is now, you got to understand that older people are going to think differently than we do in this time. And that 50-50 thing is directed at those people. Yeah. Because people of our generation and younger, and even my parents' generation and younger, don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Right? I don't know. I just feel like it's a whole bunch of fucking crying and whining that you're accomplishing nothing but piss people off. You're making... You know what that crying and whining does? It makes people not want to hire you. Because they know what now they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
Just fucking show up and do your job and... be nice to the people you work with. Like, that's literally all you have to do.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your race, your religion, your ethnicity, or your gender. None of that stuff matters in any job I've ever been on. As long as you're cool, you show up, you treat people decent, and you do a good job.
I feel like it kind of matters in Alberta.
Well, I don't know. It might. I haven't worked in Alberta, though.
I think BC is like a... British Columbia as a society is far more developed than...
That monster is fucking hitting you, eh?
I'm whining, yeah.
I don't know how you drink that shit, man. That gives me like a fucking heart palpitation.
I saw a lot more racism in Alberta than here.
Yeah.
And, it almost came to the point where sometimes it was uncomfortable listening to. Because, we grow up down here and, you go to school with... my brother dated an Asian girl for years. I'm not trying to point out certain instances where I know that Asian guy or I know that East Indian guy. We just don't. I don't look at it.
You don't even think about it.
You don't think about it.
You don't even think about it.
They're right. I don't even want to say they're regular people. Yeah. I have a hard time. They're just... You
don't even know how to talk about it because it's not an issue.
It's not an issue. It's part of our life. I don't have a problem with it, and...
Unless you're in your
car... The only time you ever have a problem with it is when there's these instances with these jobs where it's you have to hire them on these equal numbers or this, that, and I think it gets blown up way more than it needs to. And, maybe it is like that in other parts of the country, but I feel is around the lower mainland.
It's not even a thing. You think about any major radio station, DJ or jockey or any, you see all walks of life in media, all over, it's not even
everywhere.
A thing anymore.
Yeah. No.
And so to try and tell me that we don't live in an equal society, I really, really have a difficult time buying it. Yeah. I do.
I still think there's things to work on, but yes, like forcing it like a 50-50 cabinet per se is.
But I mean, I
think that's fucking bullshit.
To me, the uproar and whatever, I don't like if people don't like it. This uproar about the 50-50 cabinet to me is so overblown.
Are people happy about it?
Oh, well, yeah, people all over, guys and girls, like, this is so great.
Again, since I don't have Facebook and I could care less.
It's cool, that's awesome, but to me, what is 50-50 doesn't mean shit. Just tell me you hired the right people for the job. Yeah. I don't give a fuck.
That's it, man.
As long as they're going to do a job better than the other person, I'm happy.
I'm happier with someone who's running the country, who's good at doing their job, rather than somebody who's there saying, well, I'm supposed to be here because it's 50-50.
Yeah.
So what I say goes.
And to be honest, when you look at the credentials and everything, like from everything I've read, they are the right people for the job. Yeah. But the stupid thing is that they didn't when they came out and talked about it, they didn't push that. They pushed
50-50.
50-50. Yeah. They didn't push we hired the right people.
How long do you think it would have taken for somebody to notice it was 50-50 if they just came out and said, here are the best people for the job?
Yeah. I don't even think it would have been brought up, to be honest. Right. I mean, why would anybody even talk about it? Yeah. But they want to make a splash, and it's all about making that splash in today's.
But if that's what they think people want, and that's kind of seems to be what the liberals are playing up as much as they can, is they're doing what you want.
Well, it's because we're living in that social justice warrior era right now, where like we were talking about, everybody wants to be part of the cause. Yeah. Everybody wants to show that they're on board.
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody.
I'm not on board.
When you don't look at everything objectively, and I'm not saying I always do. I have my preconceived notions about a lot of stuff. But when someone comes at me with information, I don't just automatically say no. I'll rebut. Yeah. I'll say, but what about this, or this?
I'm the same way.
But there's been many times where I've changed my tone on things.
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm almost, hesitant about certain conversations until you research it more. Because what do? You sound like a complete idiot, right? Like, and I've done it multiple times. We're in a world of there's so much information available that if you don't take the time to educate yourself, you're just gonna look like a fucking retard.
Yep.
And that's
there was
it's how she goes. But so many people, like you said, are on the on-board world that it's if they see something that just looks right or sounds right, they take it with a stride and go, right?
We were talking about earlier that I was just telling you about like this whole new culture that they're talking about in colleges in the States of, basically they're expecting everything. They're expecting them to just basically be handed their tuition and, this and then like microaggressions and all of this. Have you heard of microaggressions?
No.
Really? Oh, I don't know if we got enough time left. But basically what it means is that if I say something that you don't like, I'm being microaggressive. I'm triggering you. That's the new thing. Triggers.
So what are you?
So basically, you're not allowed to offend anybody. To say? That's the problem. Is free speech is not getting better. It's getting way worse.
Well, that's because everybody's got an opinion. On something. Right?
No, but that's the problem. Like that video I was showing you before about that. Like people want to talk about and get on board with their side, but they only want to talk to their side. They don't want to hear anything about what the other side thinks.
That's like extreme feminism.
It's retarded. Oh, I don't even. No, we'll have to say that for the next one because we actually are pretty much out of time. Fuck. We covered a lot of stuff today.
Anything left to recap?
Well, basically, Donaldson's the man. Hopefully, the Blue Jays continue this run and he picks the right guy for the job to replace Anthopoulos.
I recommend people delete Facebook as well.
Delete Facebook. I can't do that, unfortunately. And to be honest, as much as it sucks, I enjoy it sometimes getting a little involved. I don't like a lot of the crap that's on there, but
I assure you, if you are not involved in the crap that you're involving yourself in, you'll involve yourself in crap that you care a lot more about.
Well, you know what? I can't argue with that. Yeah. I can't. Yeah.
But you're one of the rare people that uses social media in a beneficial way.
Yeah.
You share positive things. You do your podcast where you talk about current events.
Yeah.
You do good things with it.
Because I hate people who don't. I don't need to see a picture of everybody's fucking baby 3 times a day. I don't need. I don't care. You got a beautiful kid. I get it.
Yeah.
Like I get it. You're not helping anybody. You're not helping any cause. You're not But at the same time, if I don't like it, I'll just unfollow it. Like you are entitled to do whatever it is that makes you happy, and I get that. I just don't have to like it. So, but I appreciate you coming out on short notice, man. We'll definitely get another one in. We could talk forever.
I know.
I appreciate everybody tuning in. All podcasts, and I've got a few blogs up right now. Ryro.com, Instagram, RamblingRyan04, and Twitter, I believe. I don't know what my Twitter is. Actually, I don't ever use Twitter anymore because Instagram and it just kind of link up. I'll get that for you next time. So yeah, we'll talk to everybody next week. Oh, that's actually a good one for the podcast topic. No, I don't believe so. That's good. Man, that's awesome. I was kind of worried because we were talking about sports and shit for so long. We just couldn't get off of it. I'm trying not to go on the good. I've always been the guy that, I never always whatever to cover myself.